Are you curious about who's really behind the World Economic Forum? You may have heard of their flashy conferences where the world's elites gather to discuss the latest trends in business and technology. But did you know that the WEF has a web of corporate partners that extends far beyond what meets the eye? In this video, we'll be revealing the truth about the WEF's corporate partners and the impact they have on global economics and politics. Get ready for some shocking revelations that will make you think twice about the powers that be. We're glad to have you back on our channel, where we talk about important topics that affect us. We're here today to discuss the recent spate of infrequent disasters and economic conspiracies. The fact that the world is struggling economically is very obvious. The recently completed World Economic Forum in Davos was one of the vaguest meetings where billionaires came to discuss how to increase their wealth. The number of people going hungry is estimated to be in the tens of millions, and it's just increasing every day. Hundreds of millions will go without essentials like food and heat. Seeing so many individuals unable to make ends meet is distressing. Not just that, but also droughts, cyclones, and floods are all wreaking havoc on companies and forcing people to relocate due to climate change. It's not an ideal scenario, and it's not improving soon. More than 20 million people have lost their lives to the continuing COVID-19 pandemic, and many more are still suffering from its ravages. The current economic situation is terrible for many people, but good for others, the few billionaires. The main reasons inequality worsens are the wealth of the wealthiest 1% and record profits for businesses. As if that weren't bad enough, poverty rates have increased for the first time in 25 years. What is the hidden agenda by WEF at Davos that they call the Great Reset? Sky News host Cory Bernardi says there is a new group of assorted crusaders chasing the filthy lucre of crony capitalism by trying to do a deal at the World Economic Forum in Davos. By hook or by crook, they'll want to get their way, and they simply do not care what that means for your liberty, your well-being, or your household budget, he said. Davos is the destination of those who despise us. These billionaires are going to rule over the world. They have plans to overpower most parts of the world. A time of great difficulty in which most people will suffer greatly. As billionaires, government officials, and business executives fly in to convene at the top of their mountain in Davos, Switzerland, the globe confronts a dramatic, frightening, and devastating series of simultaneous problems. Oxfam's global work has shown that it has catastrophic effects on most of the world's population. According to the World Bank, the world will see the highest rise in global inequality and the worst setback to fighting global poverty since World War II. This will make it impossible to end severe poverty by 2030. By 2030, the IMF expects 1/3 of the world's economies to be in recession. The United Nations Development Program, UNDP, reports a first. 9 out of 10 nations are seeing a decline in human development. Oxfam's research shows that by 2022, at least 1.7 billion employees worldwide will have lost purchasing power because inflation has grown faster than their wages. Which has come to pass. Do you know how much commodities we buy here in America? Preservation of the wealthiest. Whole countries are nearing bankruptcy, with debt obligations spiraling out of control. More money is being spent on debt repayment, frequently to predatory affluent private lenders, than healthcare in the world's poorest nations. There is talk of severe budget cutbacks among many. Oxfam thinks that 75% of governments will cut spending over the next 5 years, saving $7.8 trillion. A time of turmoil that has resulted in massive wealth for a select few. While this is happening, the wealth of the top 1% has accelerated. Due to global polycrisis, a few have amassed an enormous fortune. Over half of the world's new wealth during the last decade has been amassed by the wealthiest 1% of the population. Based on an examination of Credit Suisse data conducted by Oxfam, the wealthiest 1% have amassed over 2/3 of all new wealth created since 2020. That's 6 times as many as the poorest 90% of the world's population. Since 2020, a world billionaire has received $1.7 million for every $1 of new global wealth gained by someone in the bottom 90% of the population. As if that's not enough, these people want to control us. There is a lockdown on climate. They want to control our climate, take our cars, increase prices for commodities inflation, and control gas and energy. The WEF plan to take control over our cities and limit our movement is unfolding. The 15-minute city plan laid out by the World Economic Forum is launching in England under a new pilot program. They aim to take your cars and charge you for traveling beyond your city. If you need more, you must get approval to travel worldwide. Is it not insane? Like really, if you want to go and see your family, you must apply from the council? Over 160 businesses have signed on as supporters of stakeholder capitalism metrics since January 2021. Companies that have used this strategy include Accenture, Bank of America, Cargolux, DP World, Eni, Fidelity International, Fubon Financial Holding, HSBC Holdings, IBM, MasterCard, Nestle, PayPal, Royal DSM, Salesforce, Schneider Electric, Siemens, Total, UBS, Unilever, Yara International, and Zurich Insurance Group. Companies that report on stakeholder capitalism metrics have used case studies to show how comprehensive non-financial reporting changes organizations' sustainability efforts. Previous case studies on the Adecco Group, Bank of America, Ginkgo Bioworks, and Wipro have been built on in new studies. Who are these other non-governmental stakeholders? The World Economic Forum is best known for gathering wealthy people in Davos, Switzerland yearly. It calls itself an international organization for public-private cooperation. WEF partners include some of the biggest companies in oil, Saudi Aramco, Shell, Chevron, BP, food, Unilever, the Coca-Cola Company, Nestle, technology, Facebook, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, and pharmaceuticals, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Moderna. At first glance, stakeholder capitalism and multi-stakeholder partnerships may seem like a win-win situation. But a closer look shows that they give businesses more power in society at the expense of democratic institutions. Ecopetrol is owned by the Government of Colombia. It uses the forum's measurements to focus on the most advanced and helpful reporting topics. Heineken, a multinational brewery, uses the metrics to get consistent and clear information about economic growth and its environmental impact. The forum's measurements are used by JLL, a multinational company that provides real estate services, to set goals and strategies for water management. Philips, a world leader in healthcare technology, has decided to use these criteria to improve its reports on how its business activities affect people and the environment. SABIC, one of the largest chemical companies in the world, is using these measurements to work with other leaders in the value chain to build a new, more diverse economy. Schneider Electric is a worldwide energy company working on a new way to protect biodiversity using forum's measures. People have the right to resist what is being imposed against their will. We should all cooperate together to go against their will to have us collaborate with them the way they want us to. Do not get vaccinated. Refuse to control your cars. Boycott these supporting companies and resist buying their services until they learn to respect the people's will. Instead, look for alternatives that provide the same services and let these other giant corporations feel the pain of losses in their companies. This is the unfortunate truth. Now is the time to consider how we might alleviate pain and get to the bottom of these issues. You should be worried about this WEF reset. The following report emphasizes how important it is to tax the rich to fight the unprecedented poly crisis and rising inequality. It shows how taxing the rich could lead to a fairer, long-lasting world without poverty. However, we should get worried that WEF is gaining more and more control over us. It is difficult to rule over billionaires who can't do anything to take over the world. God knows, if these billionaires owned oxygen, we could have long since gone because not everyone can afford it. Here is why I am telling you that it is difficult to run away from these powerful elite. Since 2020, the top 1% of the world's population has amassed about 2/3 of all new wealth, or roughly twice as much as the poorest 99%. Even while inflation is rising faster than the income of at least 1.7 billion employees, which is more than the population of India, the wealth of billionaires increases by $2.7 billion per day. In 2022, food and energy firms paid out $257 billion to affluent stockholders, more than doubling their earnings from the year before, while over 800 million people went to bed hungry. About half of the world's billionaires live in countries that don't tax the money they leave to their children. Wealth taxes make up only 4 cents of every dollar in tax revenue. As part of a global effort to end hunger, a 5% tax on the world's multimillionaires and billionaires could bring in $1.7 trillion each year. As you can see from this report, we need to cooperate as a common citizen and go against them and their agendas. People should open their eyes. These people will execute their agenda if we will not stand firm and say no to oppression, no to being controlled, no to inflation, no to the billionaires. I hope you have enjoyed this talk on the WEF agenda and the impacts it will impose on us citizens. Please spread the word that we can't allow a few billionaires to control our lives. We can make a difference and bring about good change by spreading awareness and having talks like these.